The ancient Sanskrit word ahimsa has no efficient equivalent in the English language. A clumsy translation is non harming, but it's not really a word or way of life that's taught to us. But what if we were educated to apply this concept as a consistent guiding force, to cultivate behaviors that nurture instead of neglect? We could preserve, protect, and even regenerate the planet and its inhabitants as an integrated whole. When we choose our food, for example, epidemiologist Dr. Colin Campbell reveals what should be obvious somehow remains a secret truth: that good nutrition creates health in all areas of our existence, from affecting our well being and that of others to how we relate and share with one another, from how we impact and interact with our natural environments, ensuring the best protection and least degradation of our fragile planet. All of these theories of existence are interconnected in a wondrous web of health, from molecules to people to other animals to forests to oceans to the air we breathe. Dr. Campbell offers this graphic to illustrate how farming, economic, social, and environmental harmony and profit is possible if we only endeavor to avoid harm at every turn. I learned about this in depth as a student of plant based nutrition for years, and in lockdown obtained an additional certificate in food and sustainability. This education was like cracking open a user's guide for the planet. Everybody eats, so I use food as a common ground in the classroom. Food is one of the most democratic topics you can broach, as I discuss in my nutrition studies article, remixing my climate smarts into my own pedagogy as a writing instructor. I prompt students to think critically about solving climate through something we're already doing: shopping and eating, investigating literary links between agriculture and climate. Climate change involves every student, teacher, discipline, human, non human, animal, and must be explored across the curriculum, as this handy volume explains. We read the most accessible, authoritative studies. I direct students to the UN reports and various responsible organizations that explain and disseminate the facts. An answer is on our plates. The food prints graphics help break it down for students, revealing how inefficient big agriculture has been and significant food choices are on the path in restoring natural ecosystems, health, and well being for the earth and all earthlings. Human earthlings ushered in the Anthropocene, and it's our duty to understand how we got here and what we'll do to get out. Our food systems have the potential to nurture human health and support environmental sustainability because it's all integrated. So, food is our strongest lever, our daily power. We fuel up and cast a vote with every meal for harm or for health. Eating colorful, natural, nutrient rich plants should be a no brainer, but ingrained anthropocentric thinking can trick some human minds into thinking that Earth and everything on the marble exists for our profit and convenience, a bunch of commodities like animals are here for us instead of with us. After class, students like to tell me that anthropocentrism is now the biggest word they've ever learned, but understanding it can be an even bigger wake up call. Or we could stay sheltered in the confining comfort of habit. The standard American diet, appropriately acronymed SAD, is a hard habit to break. I'm addicted to you, babe. I'm not trading my bacon for enlightenment. Cognitive dissonance is real, but we can illuminate ourselves by understanding what it is, why it's happening in our head. A crucial discipline in this pan-curricular climate is social psychology. Fanon explains, sometimes people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they're presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. The resistant impulse got there because we were led to believe that something is normal, natural, or necessary, the three N's, when in fact, we have freedom to either commit or avoid atrocities. As Dr. Melanie Joy shifts the paradigm by coining the term carnism, revealing meat consumption is not compulsory, but a human choice. Dr. Horn's meat logic helps bust through myths to help us all realize that the most dangerous, destructive phrase we can utter is, We've always done it that way. With the worldwide pandemic, some play nationalist, self-exclusionary blame games while we maintain over 70 wet markets right here in New York City. And similarities between these and so-called sanitary slaughterhouses or carcass consumption in upper crust tourist establishments is all the same hard look in the mirror. The role of meat and dairy in climate change is the real inconvenient truth. Students are proud planet protectors when it comes to eliminating snobby foie gras and horse carriage rides. But when it comes to burgers, enter the cow into the metropolis. My students' first real life flesh encounter with an animal that's served as sneakers and sandwiches all their lives. This Queen's capture had a happy ending in life and literature, thanks to Comedy Central's Jon Stewart, his veterinarian wife Tracy, and healthy, humane, sustainable farm sanctuary. But what are we doing? Disrupting biodiversity, unnatural monocropping, pesticides, herbicides, GMOs, grain-fed cattle, and CAFOs, and 2,500 gallons of water and 6 pounds of plants just to produce 1 pound of beef with acidosis, antibiotics, bovine growth hormone, calves separated from mothers because humans are convinced they need to ingest cow milk as adults. Read ecofeminist texts and casein cancer studies untainted by industry bias, and you'll see we're the only species who attempt to steal and ingest the mammary secretions of another mammal, producing lots of human illnesses and a chain of dis-ease for further profit, pharmaceuticals, procedures, and plundering natural resources. Put a dollar sign in the S in standard American diet. Agribusiness has got our gut. This is an open access journal alert. Back to Queens, where the last New York City dairy purveyor closed in 2016. After 100 years in business, people feared thirst, unemployment, calcium deficiency, and an empty compartment in school lunch trays. But a plant-based protein shift proved more profitable with increased production, distribution, and pure planet power. Students can read and cite peer-reviewed evidence right from Elmhurst's website. New York City Health and Hospitals harness their plant potential. Brooklyn Borough President and mayoral candidate Eric Adams completely reversed type 2 diabetes with a whole food plant-based diet and sticks to it for collateral benefits brings to the planet, and assures us we can be climate activists at the grocery store. We can cite his book or his office's shrewd margin notes on the North American Meat Institute's biased objection to our public schools' meatless Mondays. Deputy strategist Rachel Atchison visited our classroom, empowering students with nutrition facts and figures to fuel the future of our planet. Students enrich their vocabularies and use this language to compose letters to council people and companies who wrote back to students with links to peer-reviewed research, which students then cite in expository essays. Plant-powered Metro New York shared a mountain of published evidence at LaGuardia's nutrition fair. We even did headstands by the veggies. In Greening the Academy, Corey Lee Lewis points out the power of art and stories to direct the narrative, arguing that people look more to literature than laws when it comes to shifting attitudes. That proved true when Sinclair's The Jungle sparked the Meat Inspection Act and Carson's Silent Spring reversed pesticide policies. My students study Sinclair's novel alongside Schlosser's Fast Food Nation to write in-depth comparisons between 20th and 21st century meat production and consumption. Here's a snippet of my former student, Veronica Martinez Castro's literary analysis illustrating how America's meat and agribusiness perpetuates power abuse in the workplace, invisible immigrant workforce, food and ecosystem contamination during the last century, threatening human well-being, social justice, and the planet. Veronica is now serving as the C4E conference coordinator here and recently won the prestigious Goldwater Scholarship to further her studies in environmental science. Through literature, students travel to a Kenyan savanna, To witness elephant poaching, a cruel consumption of animals layered with historical commodifications of human bodies by Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Lynn Nottage. We study these atrocious practices and policies alongside this journal article, emphasizing elephants as engineers on whom naturally biodiverse ecosystems depend for seed dispersal. Literature and science meet to teach our students compassion with logic and ethics. Anthropocentrism meets magic realism and defamiliarization in this short story, depicting a diseased environment population. Particularly poignant in this pandemic era, readers are forced to identify and disidentify interspecies, a winged human cooped and exploited with chickens while persecutors profit. My student Denicia, an art major, drew this when I asked the class for nonverbal analyses of the story as a pre-writing exercise. We compared it to this McDonald's mounted image of Joaquin Phoenix reminding us that we are all animals. This student essay quotes Garcia Marquez in the same paragraph with Greta Thunberg before bringing Jane Goodall into the current climate conversation to point to our broken relationships with the planet and other animals who dwell here. This brings us back around to the crucial concept of Earth as an interconnected chain of well-being, revealed by Dr. Campbell with our opening guiding principle of ahimsa, a powerful word for our climate education vernacular. Shout out to my students' favorite animation encapsulating the Anthropocene and the books and documentaries my students most prefer. Cheers to authors and filmmakers making it easy for everyone to digest the data through engaging, informal, popular, accessible material.